Welcome back to the Crochet Creatives with my friends at Yarnspirations.com. Today is a crochet monster. I'm going to be using assorted Red Heart Super Saver and I think Hygge yarn. So this was using Red Heart Amigurumi textures, which I've never seen. So that's possible that it's never come to Canada, so I never saw it. So I'm just going to be substituting with the Super Saver using a 4mm size F crochet hook. So it's a bit bigger because this one actually was only 2.25 millimeters and only a size B. So I'm going to increase the hook so it's easier for me. I have some safety eyes that I have. So I'm going to make a green-eyed monster that is full of envy, and that's going to be up for today. So you'll see that there's two different colorways, but it's still the same pattern, and have a lot of fun with the color. So we're going to jump right in and get this thing started. In today's pattern, I'll also be using a spare piece of yarn. We're not going to do the joining so we don't end up with a seam line that appears in the animal or the monster. So you don't really see it here in the photo because it's probably behind the character. So let's get rid of it completely. At the end of each round, we're just going to do a continuous round so that we are going to use this to keep track and just check it off as we go. So we're going to do that today as well. So let's begin. We're going to create a slip knot. And with amigurumi, if it's too loose, then you'll see the stitches through. So you'll notice that the hook is actually too small for the yarn, which is what we want because we want it to be compact. So we're going to chain 2. And then just in the first stitch, so second one away, you're going to apply 6 single crochet. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And before you go too far, just pull up a loop and insert the hook into the last stitch that you did and pull this through. So every time you hit the end, I need you to move up the stitch marker, but also that represents the end of a round as well. And it will help you so that you don't have any ugly seam lines that will just drive you nuts later. And if it doesn't, maybe I'll convince you. Let's move on to round number 2. If you're needing the stitch counts, they're in the downloadable. You'll see the video description and be able to get it there. We also use video chapters, so you'll be able to skip ahead just in case you have any questions and you just want to get right to the point. So next one, row number 2, we're going to go second chain from the hook. If you're not sure, sorry, we're not doing. So row number 2, we're just going to count back to the 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Even as an experienced crocheter, I will always count back to the 6 or to the one that it says, just to make sure that I get the first revolution, which is round number 2 done. There will be 2 single crochets in that one, and I want to make sure that this round is correct, so I will say to my brain 1 and 1, so there's 2 into the same one. Then in the next one I go 2 and 2, which shares the same one as well. And then next one is 3 and 3. Next one is 4 and 4. Next one is 5 and 5. Next one is 6 and 6. So as I told you, you're going to move the stitch marker up at the end of a row or a round. Okay, so you'll keep an eye on that, and then you just start immediately on the next empty stitch when you start the next row. So either follow the instructions as per the pattern or just substitute with what I'm doing. Let's move on to round number 3. Round number 3, you're going to single crochet into the first one, and then you're going to put 2 single crochet into the next. So the repeat pattern around is there's going to be 1 into the next and then 2 into the next. Please repeat that sequence all the way around for round number 3. Round number 4. So you're going to start off and the first 2 in a row will be by themselves. So 1's by itself, 2 by itself, and then the next one has 2 into the same one. Okay, so the sequence around is 1 by itself, another 1 by itself, and then 2 into the next. Please complete this around for round number 4. Round number 5, the first 3 in a row are by itself, so 1 by itself, 2 by itself, and 3 by itself, and then 2 into the next one. So to recap, The first 3 are by themselves. So 1, 2, and 3. And then the next one has 2 into the same one. Please complete that around for round number 5. Round number 6. The first 4 are by themselves. So we have 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then the next one has 2 into the same one. Okay, so the recap of that is 4 by itself and 2 in the next, and do that around for round number 6. Round number 7, the first 5 are by itself. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then the next one has 2 into the same one. So it'll recap 5 by itself and 2 into the next. Do that around for round number 7. Round number 8, the next 6 are by itself. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and then 2 into the next. So 6 by itself and then 2 into the next. Please do this around for round number 8. The next rounds, 9 through 20, is a total of 12 rounds, and they're just 1 single crochet in each. You're going to notice that this will take a little bit before it starts crawling up the side of the monster, but then it will eventually turn into this bowl shape, which is what you're looking for, which will shape the creature itself. So please do the 12 rounds of 9 through 20 now, and just check it off your list, and I will see you on round number 21 in just a few seconds from now. So just put me on pause and put the stitch work in. I'll see you back here in a second. I've just completed round number 20. So 21, we're going to do a reduction round, but we're also going to be using the back loops only just for this one round. So we've been using both of the loops to create a stitch, but we're only going to use the back loop. And then I came to realize that this is the top of the head, and we're now at the base here. And if I looked at the pattern, I could see where the back loops were used. So to do this particular round, it's going to be a multiple of a stitch combination. So using the back loops only, so just don't use the whole stitch, use the back loop, and you're going to do the first 4. So we'll have 1, 2, 3, and 4. And now we're going to do a 2 together single crochet. So usually when you do a 2 together in Amigurumi, you always see this reduction line that is really quite sinful. So to get rid of that is that you're going to still use the back loop only, because that's what it's telling us to do. When we go into the first one, and normally we would grab the yarn and pull through, but I want you to wiggle it and grab the next one right after it. Same thing, back loop only. So both of the 2 back loops are on your hook already. You're going to pull through both of them and then pull through everything. And what that does is it pulls them together without having a line. Okay, so the next 4 in a row are back loop only. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then back loop only, 2 together. So get the first back loop, circle around, get the next back loop, pull through both, and then pull through. And do that all the way around. So 4 by itself, 2 together. Okay, round number 22, another reduction round. Just use the regular stitch now, and you're going to single crochet the first 3. And this time, I still want to show you that technique of putting things together, but use the front loops this time. So circle, get the front loop, get the next front loop, and pull through, and then pull through 2. Pull through everything. Okay, so it's going to be 3 by itself. So 1, 2, 3, and then go in the front loop. So you're going the front loop this time because you're using a regular stitch. We only used the back loop last time because we were only working with the back loops. So please do this around, 3 by itself and then 2 together. Number 23, another reduction. It's going to be 2 by itself, and then the next 2 are together. Let me know if you're using that technique. I learned it many years ago. So 2 by itself and then 2 together. And ever since I learned it, I tend to do that so I don't end up with some really ugly 2 together lines. Please do this around for number 23, 2 by itself and then 2 together. Now before I go on to 24, I'm gonna already stuff, I got thick fingers, you know what they say, what about a guy with thick fingers, right? Large gloves. So because of my 8 fingers, I wanna start stuffing now because it says to stuff in the next round after this, but I'm gonna do it now. So we wanna stuff it nice and firm, but not to the point where we're gonna make the stuffing explode between the stitches. So I'm gonna do that off camera now. Round number 24, I'm gonna put my finger behind so the stuffing doesn't capture into my hook. So we're gonna do 1 into the next, and then the next 2 are 2 together. And that's gonna be a repeat for round number 24. So 1 into the next, and then the next 2 are together. Please do this around round number 24. Going on to number 25, if you've not stuffed it, this is your last opportunity to do so because the next round will be too tight. So we're going to start and you're going to do single crochet 2 together all the way around. Make sure your fingers are in front of the stuffing so it doesn't capture into the hook so you don't end up with it getting snagged within your stitches. 2 together all the way around for your final round. Now that I've gone all the way around, I want to trim a large tail and I'm going to pull that up through there. I can pull out my stitch marker now. And let me know if you decided to do the continuous round or you preferred the slip stitch with the join. But now I do not have any kind of join lines on the outside. Nice and clean. This will stretch out because that's where the stitch marker was. The only difference that you'll see is right here, but you know what, who cares? It's a monster after all. It's supposed to look like hell. Okay, so we're gonna do that. And I'm just gonna collect my stitches. And I get a cheap thrill out of pulling it all together and watching the hole go down on its own. So I just go all the way around and then I pull, see? And then I'm going to just weave in this. So don't be afraid to tie it into a knot on the bottom side here. But then we still wanna just dive it in. So I'm just gonna go in and then back through like so. Okay, so that's good. If you think that you've overstuffed, there's still opportunity. You can grab your hook and actually just reach in and pull out some stuffing. But for me, I think this is good for what I'm up to. So we're going to move on now to doing the horns. So we're now going to move on to the horn. It's only 4 rounds. You know, my monster is a bit horny, and I'm gonna struggle with this on camera because my hands are not functioning properly, but I'll try my best and we're going to get there. So I'm going to do the continuous round like I showed you before. We need to create an extra long tail, and I'm gonna cheat the pattern right off the hop because I noticed that it's easier if I do it the way that I'm about to show you, because I tried it their way and I didn't like it. So we're going to create a slip knot, and you're going to chain 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and slip stitch it to the beginning chain to form a ring. We want to keep the tail out of the way so that we can sew that to the monster. Round number 1, right into the center of the ring, place in 6 single crochet. It says to use the chain, but I find it's too hard. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And I'm being a little looser than I was the first time, which is probably going to make my life a lot easier. So I'm going to put the stitch marker in the last one so I can count it. And the point would be then is to have the base of this pop towards me, but it takes a couple rounds in order for that to happen naturally. So let's begin round number 2 and 3. Round number 2 and 3, starting in the first one right here. If you're not sure, count it back to the 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you are just going to apply 1 single crochet in each of the stitches. And it's going to take a bit of, I think it's probably a couple more rounds. And then this will pop out and stay towards you the entire time. Okay, so it's going to take that. I'm probably going to have surgery on my wrist, so I'm just struggling a bit here on camera. It's like watching a dog throw up, I'm sure. And so I want to make sure I got 6 going in. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. and move up my stitch marker. So you see it wants to fold back in the other direction away from me. So I am going to continue to force it in, and then eventually it'll hold on the side it's supposed to. So another round of just 1 single crochet in each. So 2. So I just caught the stitch work in there, so I want to take that out. Okay. Just want to keep that out of the way. I'd prefer to leave this screw up in the tutorial because it's just going to show you that it might be a bit of a challenge. Okay, so it's kind of, just keep going. Just shut up and keep going. I'm gonna mansplain myself if I overdo myself here. So I'm just doing 1 single crochet in each. I find it really difficult in amigurumi when it's so tight like this. Oh, I know, life is so rough. So that's it for that round. And now I'm going to pull that stitch marker through so I can see it again. And then I'm going to use my crochet hook to force it to go. And so I'm looking at the wrong side right now. Okay, so I'm just going to force it to turn inside out. There you go. The hardest thing I have to do every day is actually butter my toast with my hands. I can crochet pretty okay, but the fine movement is tough. There you go. And it looks like I crocheted over top of that, so what I'm just gonna do is just force that tail through. So it's on the right side of the inside of the horn. So it's coming out again. So I have 1 more round to go and do. And so we'll do our last round, number 4. And we're gonna single crochet 2 together 3 times in a row. We're just gonna use the regular stitch work. We're not gonna use the front loops like I showed you before because it's gonna be the last round. So 2 together. I'm just gonna pull the stitch marker out so it's out of my way. So there's only 3 2 together stitches. So I've been crocheting all day on camera and my hands are really hurting me. Not that it matters for you, but it's been a tough day. Okay, so I've got my last one done. So what I'm going to do is just trim the work, longer tail, and I am going to pop it up so it says to pull through the top. And then you're going to use your hook and insert your hook in the interior and just pull it down into the horn. Okay, so it's right there. So I'm going to take my tapestry needle and I'm going to secure it into the interior of that. And it's just enough just to get it out of the way and making sure that it just will not come loose on you if somebody's pulling on the horn. There is my horn. Dog's breakfast, right? So now I got 2 of these things. You can see they're kind of, they're the same. And we're going to move on in the pattern to doing the feet. We're gonna move along to the feet. They're a little tree stumpy, just like you see. And we're gonna be using our stitch marker here. And we're going to get these done. So these are only 4 rounds and these are much easier than those horns. Those horns were nasty. Let's begin to do the feet. You'll need to make 2 of these. The feet are relatively quick, just a slip knot, chain 2, 1 and 2, second chain from the hook, apply 8 single crochets. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And on the 8th one, I want you to place that stitch marker in so you can keep an eye on it. And then you're ready for round number 2. So let's begin that next. Round number 2, there's going to be 2 stitches in each. If you're not sure which one to start with, just count it back to the 8th one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we got 8 is right here. So that's going to be the first one. So there'll be 2 stitches in each. So I will say to myself 1 and 1. Okay. And then I will continue then. And the next stitch is 2 and 2. It's just the way I count it in my brain. And 3 and 3. If you have any ideas of counting stuff like this other than what I'm showing, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. So 4 and 4. 5 and 5. 6 and 6. 7 and 7. And the last one here is 8 and 8. Move up that stitch marker. We're going to proceed to round number 3 in just a second. Round number 3, using the back loops only, just single crochet all the way around. You won't need to count it if you counted the last round. It's your last round. You're going to go back to your regular stitch work and just apply 1 single in each. And that will be it for each one of the legs. Just 4 rounds, and we'll lightly stuff that before we put it onto, well, while we're putting it onto the character, because it's basically an open bowl shape until it's sewed on. So in the last stitch, that's it. And just create a long tail. You'll use that to sew it to your character. You can remove that loop out. You can remove the stitch marker. And if you have an extra long tail where you started, you can safely just cut that down as well. Okay, and that will be it. So you'll make 2 of these for the legs. So let's create these little arms, and we're going to start off here, get ourselves bigger. We're going to close in the top, and then this is the strand at the top that I've just fed all the way through. Let's begin. So let's begin, and we're going to create a slip knot. I'm going to tell you that cheating technique that we did on the horns, and we're going to chain a total of 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Slip stitch to the beginning one. And then using the ring, we want to begin the first round. First round, we're just going to single crochet into the ring. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Place your stitch marker in on the 6th one. I've been covering over top of that beginning straggler. I found that was a real hard thing for the horns, so I'm getting rid of that out of the way. We're going to use the other side, and I'll show you that when we get there. So I'm just going to trim, get it out of the way, and we're moving on to rounds number 2, 3, 4, and 5. So 4 more rounds. So just kind of flip it towards you, and let's begin those rounds. So rounds number 2, 3, 4, and 5 are a single crochet. So to start the first one, count back to the 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. It's always a bit challenging, at least for me. So I'm going to count it the way that I've been telling you. So 1 and 1. Next 6, 1, 2, and 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, and this one is the stitch marker, so I can tell that I probably skipped an extra stitch by accident, so that was 5 and 5. So I'm going to pull this out and do 6 and 6 there. So we have the stitch counts available on the pattern. Rounds number 2, 3, 4, and 5. 4 rounds are all single crochet, so just count back to the 6th one just to get yourself started. So 1, 2, 3, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, and it's just going to be 1 single crochet in each of the stitches. Move that stitch marker up as you pass it, and then I will see you at the end of the 5th round to begin round number 6 in just a moment. I gotta go take care of that cat. Okay, round number 6. There's going to be 2 single crochets in each one of the stitches all the way around to the stitch marker. Move your stitch marker up, and I'll be right back in a moment. Round number 7 is just a single crochet in each stitch all the way around to the stitch marker. Move your stitch marker up, and we'll do our last round together. Finally, your last round, number 8, you're going to single crochet 2 together. I would recommend doing it that fancy way that I showed you earlier. And you just keep doing 2 together all the way around. And so this is going to leave a few stitches open at the end, and we'll cut an extra long tail. We'll close that end, and then we'll also feed it through the arm and sew it to the monster at a later time. Okay, it's all the way through. So cut a long tail and pull through. Pull your stitch marker out, and then using that tail, you want to gather in the rest of the stitches that were open at the top. I'm almost surprised the pattern did not say keep a tail end on the other side, because that seems inconsistent with the horn, but what do I know, right? Not much. So I'm just going all the way around, and then I'm going to pull it shut. And then I'm going to go down. And so I'm going to go right down to the opening hole at the base, and then I'm going to leave that hold, and I'll use that strand to sew it to the character later. And so you'll have 2 arms by the end. So let's work on the eye. You're going to notice a step in the coloring because of the way that I'm doing it. So when you apply it to your character, you're going to want to place that so it's going down. Oh my God, this thing is looking like a frog. So I'm going to show you how to do this. You'll need your safety eye for this, and some fancy yarn if you would like to make the back of the eye kind of something special. And let's begin to make our frog. I know somebody that thinks frogs are monsters. Let's continue and move along. Let's begin. We're going to start with a slip knot and chain 2. And second chain from the hook, you're going to start and you're going to put 6 single crochet. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Let's do that continuous circle. So place your stitch marker in. You'll see a bit of an open hole, but we're going to be placing our safety eye in there anyway, so it won't matter so much. Okay, let's pull things tight and let's move on to round number 2. Round number 2, you're going to go and put 2 single crochets into each. I want to make sure my counts are right, so I'm going to count back to the 6th one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And so if there's 2 in each, I do my special count as I shared. So I have 1 and 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, 5, 5, and this is my last one, and 6, and 6. So now I know my multiples are going to be fine. Pull up a stitch marker and let's move on to round number 3. Round number 3, first one is 1 single crochet, and then the next one has 2 into the same one. Okay, so the repeated round is the next one has 1, and the one after that has 2. Please do that same sequence around for round number 3. Okay, 4 and 5 are just the same, 1 single crochet each. So the only difference of mine is that I decided to, on the end of the 5th, to change the color to make the back of the eyeball a solid color, which is the Hygge, and you're going to notice that when that happens. So do rounds number 4 and 5. I'll see you at the end of number 5, and we'll switch over our yarn color. Coming up to the end of number 5, this is the last one. I'm not going to finish this stitch, and I'm going to add in my next color. Okay, I'm just going to loop it through, and I'm just going to start number 7, which will be the, number 6, which will just be a couple of single crochets first, and I want to move up that stitch marker to that last one that I was just in. Just has to be there, just so to make it easier to be there. I'm going to pull this stitch marker out so it's no longer near the front of this, because we're going to be putting in our stitch marker. And so this round and next is going to be this color, and please do that. So this is round number 6 and 7 that you'll both be doing, and we're going to be putting in our safety eye in after that. I'll be right back. So I have my 2 rounds complete. Just pull up a strand. We're going to get our safety eyes ready, and then after the eyes in, then we're going to lightly stuff as well. So we want to make sure that the stitch marker is out of the way, and that the eye is going to go down through the center towards the inside of the eye, and just get everything out of the way on this end. If these things are sliding in too easy, it becomes a real problem. They're not so safety then. So then you're going to take your cap, it's like a bowl shape, and you're just going to push it into the eye. Okay, this is a permanent thing, so if you miss a line, you've got a real problem. Okay, so there is your eye, and we're going to put our hook back in, and we're going to continue now, and we're going to start doing some decreasing, and you'll want to add some stuffing closer, probably in the next round or so. So let's do the next round. Okay, the next round is going to be 1 single crochet, and then the next one's 2 together. Because this is fluffy yarn, I'm not going to worry about doing the front loops only. So it's just 1 into the next, and then the next one's 2 together. And you keep doing that all the way around. It's only when you really can see the stitch texture that it matters, like the back or the back loop or the front loops for that decrease. So I'm just going all the way around. I'm going to grab some stuffing. Make sure you stuff your eye the way that you think is best. Okay, and just pull up a loop. And so I'm going to pull out my stitch marker, and I'm going to apply my stuffing. So if it's too stuffed, then it's a problem, and if it's not enough, it's a little droopy. So it's a fine line, and you may want to do a squeeze test. If you've done one already, do a squeeze test with the other one in your other hand and see if it's kind of the same density. So you're going to complete your last round, put your hook in, and you were just going to do a single crochet 2 together all the way around. I took out my stitch marker, but I can see where it is. Recommend you put your finger in between the back of it and the stuffing so that it doesn't capture the stuffing inside the stitch. It's kind of a pain to pull the stuffing outside the tangled stitches. So when we go to pull this shut, which will be 2 seconds from now, so you can see where this is, so that's gone all the way around. When I pull shut, I want to leave the tail so that it's going to be in a position to sew this to the character as well. So I need to gather those stitches first. Okay. And then I'm looking where this is, and I'm going to put my my yarn in, and basically where this is coming out of the base, so then it'll be ready to be able to sew to the character as well. So you'll have your 2 sets of eyes like this. Okay, let's go look at the pattern and see what's next. So what you'll want to do is you want to look at your pattern and see how things are laid out. And it looks like the eyes are actually sewn together first. So you may want to just put those eyes together so that they're sandwiched together. I wouldn't be scared to do that. Just make sure you rotate those so they're in position, and kind of put the eyes together so they're sandwiched together. Okay, so you'll want to do that, and then we're going to position it onto the body. Use the center point at the top to kind of indicate where you want to position it to play, and you may want to use pins, sewing pins, just to be able to pin it down to your character, just to hold it while you're working through it. And then you'll make sure you remove those, especially if it's going to kids. And you're just going to take that yarn strand then, both of them, and you're going to sew just the back of each of the eyes, just right down where it touches to the character. So we are just sew in and out and do both of them individually, and then they'll be together just like that. So carefully just lean it out of the way and go into the body. Just capture some stitches. Once you start capturing stitches, it becomes a lot easier. But I would be very cautious to turn it around once in a while to make sure that you are exactly where you want to be. And just keep diving into the body and back into the eyes. Sorry if I'm out of the way. You are a better visual than I am because you're right in front of my face. I just stabbed myself there. Okay. And once you're happy with this, then like it's on there really quite good. I'm just going to leave this tail in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew the other one first. And then if I have to lean it back, I can just pull back on it and just reposition the eye if I want to, but I'm going to do the other one and I'll be right back. So get your eyes done. I'll be right back. Once you have your eyes positioned, just secure it with a knot, which I've already done, and then just weave back and forth a total of 3 times on the back side just to really get it stuck. And you'll do that with both of the eyes. Now that you have your eyes on, use the rest of the photo now to place on your horns, your arms, and your legs, and do that now. So make sure when you put on your feet, so I have a bit of expression, I got them kind of leaning a bit. I like expressions on my little characters. And don't forget, you got to apply a little bit of stuffing just in the feet, just to make it sure that it stays a little bit filled out. So don't forget to do that before you sew it on. Continuing along with the monster, what is missing? The mouth, of course. So we're going to apply a stem stitch with that. It's embroidery, and we're going to pick a spot and we're going to do that. So pick whatever color that you would like to use, and then we'll do that. And then we have the tooth to do at the very end. So let's create a slip knot, and you want the slip knot to be longer so that you can use a tapestry needle to be able to grab that later to finish it off nicely. So I'm just using whatever color. Now the mouth is positioned just below where the armpits are of your monster if you look at the sample. And so the mouth is somewhere around here. So we're just going to start, and we're going to go right here, and we're going to skip 1 stitch and come out 2 away. Just like that. And with the slip knot, I want you to put that on. And what we're going to do later is that we're going to have the tail pull that knot inside the project. Okay, just like that. So before you go anywhere else, you need to go halfway back. Okay, so to the one before, and then you want to advance to the one after. Just like that. And you're going to pull. So what I'm going to do now, before I go too far, is that I want to just put this off of my needle, and I want to drag this guy in the interior of the character. It's going to knot onto the project or yarn itself, so I don't have to worry about it. So I'm just going to get this a little bit tighter. Okay, and I'm just going to drag it underneath. So I'm going in the same hole and dragging it, and I'm just coming out somewhere else in a distance away. And when I pull, I want to pull that so it's in the interior, just like you see. That's it. Okay. Now I'm going to cut this so that dragged yarn is all the way inside that project, all the way across there, and you just got to just mush it like that. So we're going to put this guy back on, and we are going to go back to here. And when we come out, we're going to come out one after. So I'm staying within the same row. And when I pull, I don't want to be so tight that I'm going to change the shape. So now you're going to come back here and then go to the one after. Okay. So you keep doing that until your mouth is wide enough. Now he really doesn't have much of an expression, so he doesn't really have a smile. So if you can do a straight line, it's half the magic, right? Okay, I'm just continuing to go until I think it's done. It says just to match the look of the project. I think I'll just go right here. So once I'm in the last one, I am going to come out of the same one that I'm currently in here, so I don't advance anymore. And just going to go in there. So I'm going to take this yarn here, and because I've already kind of gone around, I'm just going to go back and forth. So I'm just going to come up somewhere over here within the same color, so it kind of gets stuck. And then you're just going to go back down, just a slightly different path, and then out somewhere else on the character. And therefore the loose end will be on the interior of your character. Okay, so we're just going to trim. And then you just squish it, and therefore it actually looks pretty decent. So now we're going to apply a tooth to this next end, which is your last step. To do the last step, I'm just going to use some white yarn, and I'm going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to 1 single crochet, second chain from the hook, and then 1 into the next one. So there's only 2 single crochet in a row, and then you're going to turn your work, chain 1, and it says 1 single crochet in the next 2 stitches, which that's all there is. And then this is it. Okay, I'm just creating an extra long tail so I can determine what I want to do with it. So one of these, I'm going to sew it to the project, and the other one I'm just going to weave in the end. So I'm going to take this beginning yarn, and I'm going to weave it back and forth just to get it out of the way. Okay. And then I'm going to trim it. And then I'm going to use the other tail that I had started with before, and I'm going to sew that right to the project. And you will notice that in the project is that it's just sitting on top of the mouth area. Okay. So I'm just going to have it come down right on top of where I did the stem stitch. And then I'm just going to go up the tooth into the body a little bit. And then back down. So I'm just circling the tooth itself. And then once I'm confident with it, I'm just going to weave it back and forth in the tooth area 3 times. So 1, 2, and 3. Just like that. And then I'm just going to trim. And therefore, my monster is complete and ready to do a song and dance for you. That's it for today, and we hope you enjoyed. If you really want this thing to stand on its own, if you provide a third leg to it, it will have the ability to do that as well. That's it for today. We hope you see you again another time. Bye-bye.